Completing the Nebraska Death Certificate, presented for county attorneys, coroners, and law enforcement officials. Each state has its own process for filing death certificates, vital statistics laws, and regulations, indicating how and when a death certificate will be filed when the death of a human being occurs. All death data is filed with the National Center for Health Statistics, which maintains all death data for the United States, the associated territories, and possessions. The data is used by researchers and the government to plan and fund research and programs that impact health and safety. For these reasons, it is important that the death certificate be completed as accurately as possible, and to have a clear understanding of causes and circumstances surrounding the death. Nebraska Revised Statute 71-605. Death Certificate, Cause of Death, Sudden Infant Death Syndrome, How Treated, Cremation, Disinterment, or Transit Permits, How Executed, Filing. Requirements are: in the case of a death when no person licensed as a physician, physician assistant, or nurse practitioner was in attendance, the case shall be referred to the county attorney, who shall have the responsibility and duty to complete and sign the death certificate in his or her own handwriting or by electronic means. No cause of death shall be certified in the case of the sudden and unexpected death of a child between the ages of 1 week and 3 years until an autopsy is performed at county expense by a qualified pathologist pursuant to Section 23-1824. If the circumstances show that death was caused by neglect, violence, or any unlawful means, the case shall be referred to the county attorney for investigation. The county attorney shall, within 24 hours after taking charge of the case, state the cause of death as ascertained, giving as far as possible the means or instrument which produced the death. A completed death certificate shall be filed with the department within 5 business days after the date of death, and if it is not possible to file the certificate in 5 business days, the funeral director shall notify the department of the reason and file the certificate as soon as possible. If the cause of death cannot be determined within the filing time, the death certificate shall be filed to establish the fact of death. There is no perfect world for completing death certificates, but the time frame for completing them is an important source of information in regards to public health. Death certificates, when completed correctly and analyzed properly, give insights into areas of concern, such as major causes of death, but also more in-depth information such as accidents, suicide, and even chronic diseases for specific populations, times, and locations. The death certificate serves many purposes, including legal documentation that the person is deceased, information about the deceased, such as age, sex, race, date of birth, place of birth, and other descriptive data concerning the deceased. Contain information concerning the cause, manner, location, and circumstances of the death. Information to be used in legal functions of the deceased. Information directed toward possible criminal prosecution. Information concerning burial and disposition of remains. Information directed at the review and research to be utilized by local, state, and federal agencies and public health entities. There are 3 steps to the completion of a death certificate in Nebraska. Funeral home initiates the certificate. Cause of death is completed by the appropriate medical certifier, in other words, county attorneys, coroners, and law enforcement officials. Registration with the State Vital Records Office within 5 business days. The funeral home is responsible for filing death certificates with the state. The county attorney, coroner, or law enforcement official are responsible for the completion of the cause of death section for deaths that are unattended or caused by neglect, violence, accident, the sudden and unexpected death of a child 1 week up to 3 years, or any other unlawful means. The tasks of the medical certifier, county attorney, or his or her designee, is to determine whether a death is an accident or the result of an intent to end life, and in what order the medical events that cause death will be listed. In Part 1 of Cause of Death specifically states to enter the chain of events. The first part is for reporting the sequence of events leading to death, proceeding backwards from the disease, injury, or complications that directly caused the death. Each condition in Part 1 should cause the condition above it. The immediate cause of death is the final disease, injury, or complication that directly caused the death. Do not enter terminal events such as cardiac arrest, respiratory failure, or ventricular fibrillation without showing the etiology. Do not enter abbreviations if possible. For each cause or condition, indicate the approximate interval to the onset of death. The actual underlying cause of death should always be listed on the lowest line. For lines B, C, and D sequentially, enter the list of conditions that were due to or a consequence that led to the cause of death as entered on line A. Part 1 and Part 2 of the cause of death are the most important sets of significant information on the death certificate. It provides medical information that serves as the basis for describing trends in public health, mortality, and for analyzing the conditions leading to death. It is important the medical certifier list the risk factors involved with this death. Data Field 18, Part 2, Other Significant Conditions, is reporting all other significant diseases, conditions, or injuries that contributed to death, but which did not result in the underlying cause of death given in Part 1. Data Field 19, Was medical examiner or coroner contacted, provides important additional insight into the condition that led to death. Data Field 20, If female. This is an inquiry into past and present pregnancies. This information is important to medical and public health issues and measures the quality of the healthcare delivery system. The information is used to improve the cause of death and help identify maternal deaths. Data Field 21A, Manner of Death, is used to obtain a more accurate determination of the cause of death. In most cases, the death will have been the result of something other than natural causes. The following are distinctions between manners of death. Natural, due solely or nearly totally to disease and or the aging process. Accident, there is little or no evidence that the injury or poisoning occurred with intent to harm or cause death. In essence, the fatal outcome was unintentional. Suicide, results from an injury or poisoning as a result of an intentional, self-inflicted act committed to do self-harm or cause the death of one's self. Homicide, occurs when death results from an injury or poisoning or from a volitional act committed by another person to cause fear, harm, or death. Intent to cause death is a common element, but is not required for classification as homicide. Pending investigation, used when determination of manner depends on further information. Could not be determined, used when the information pointing to one manner of death is no more compelling than one or more other competing manners of death when all available information is considered. When an accident or suicide is indicated in 18 Part 1, then the manner of death should be marked as accident or suicide. If this is the case, the county attorney, coroner, or law enforcement official will need to complete the injury portion of the death certificate. Data fields 21B, 21C, 21D, 22A, 22B, 22C, 22D, 22E, and 22F. Data field 21B. If transportation injury, Answer if the death was specifically related to a transportation injury. If in doubt, contact the Vital Records Office for assistance. Data Field 21C and Data Field 21D are important in providing additional insight into the conditions that led to death. Data Fields 24A, B, C, D, and E, the date signed, time of death, the pronounced dead, time pronounced dead, and the signature of the medical certifier. Pronouncement of death. The county attorney or designee state that on the basis of examination or investigation, in my opinion, death occurred at the time, date, and place, and due to the cause or causes and manner as stated. The phrase, in my opinion, is included because it is recognized that in medical legal cases, it is not always possible in cases where bodies are found sometime after death occurred to make precise determinations of the date and the cause or causes of death. When the exact time of death is unknown, the approximate time of death, as estimated by the medical certifier, is used. If the medical certifier is not sure how to enter the approximate time, contact the Vital Records Office for assistance. Data Field 25. Did tobacco use contribute to the death? It is a public health outcome used to measure other health outcomes and health assessments. Data Field 26A has organ or tissue donations been considered, and Data Field 26B was consent given. Electronic Death Registration System. If interested in learning or being trained to use the Electronic Death Registration System software, contact Vital Records at area code 402-471-0919.